Nothing in this podcast is meant for medical advice. Please discuss your own healthcare with your healthcare providers. Thank you. Welcome to your B-side, your midlife metamorphosis. I'm your host, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Midlife is not a crisis, it's a catalyst to your best life. Join me each week for a dose of mental, physical, and spiritual health, life, grief, adventure, and opportunity. It's time to flip the record over. Welcome to your B-side, your midlife metamorphosis with me, your host, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Today we're going to talk about spiritual bypassing and politics. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that politics do matter. And if you are a spiritually minded person and you're in the spirituality community and you are committed to your spiritual growth and your inner peace, I have this to say for you. Your inner peace is connected to the peace of all beings on the planet. And one of the ways that we help all beings on the planet have peace is through our participation in politics. So there is this, what I call an immature relationship that people have with politics, that they say, oh, I don't do politics, or the political scene is just so binary and everyone is just in victim consciousness and, there's not any real work that's getting done. And I'm here to call you out and say that that is spiritual bypassing. Politics absolutely fucking matter. And they matter because the political scene, the politicians are the one creating futures for all of us. They're the ones passing the bills. They're the ones creating law. They're the ones having that power and influence that influences every aspect of our lives in every day and in every way. Okay. And I think that there's this tendency when you get into kind of that purpose-driven spiritual alignment and manifestation and abundance practices that people forget that the reason that they're able to even have those conversations is often because of a position of privilege. Okay. And often that position of privilege came from some sort of political action or decision making that influenced your life, or either directly or indirectly. Okay. So there has been a lot going on in the world for years. And it has been this way always, right? It has always been this way. It has always been painful and tragic and so many difficult things going on. And I know that lately it has even felt worse, like it couldn't get any worse. But if you follow time, human beings have always been creating wars. Human beings have always been involved in politics. And more importantly, human beings have often tried to manipulate morality and ethics and spirituality and religion for power. Okay, so I want to have this conversation because I do see this a lot in the spiritual community, that there is this almost divorce from engaging in politics, that they don't want to get negative, that they don't want to fall into victim consciousness, that they want to stay on top of their own alignment and their own abundance and their own, purpose and what matters to them. And they don't want to get distracted by the news. Okay. And there's this bypassing that what's going on in the world is simply the news. While it is true that often the news is going for your outrage addiction, right? We can talk about that in a second, but it is going for those triggers of you. And there is a lot of news that is negative, and that is true. And I do wish that we had so much more positive news. I would love the news to report and both, right? Everything. Report things that are going wrong, things that are painful, things that are really happening, and report with integrity. And I would also love to see so much more reporting on things that are going well. Shout out to the people who do Fix the News. Okay, they're not paying me, they're not advertising, but shout out to the Fix the News people. They do provide a platform for a lot of positive news. But what I'm talking about is people specifically will use their uninvolvement in politics or their uninvolvement in knowing what's going on in the world because they're trying to keep their inner peace. Again, I will say it in case you're sitting in the back row of this podcast, that your inner peace is connected to the inner peace of the world, and that your spiritual journey and your own purpose is to be of service to the world. That, my friends, is what we're actually here for, okay? Our spiritual journey is to find what our assignment is here on this earth. And our assignment is going to be connected to being of service in the world, okay? And I hear over and over and over and over again in a lot of these communities that people just simply think that anyone involved in politics, anyone who is being targeted and victimized, has this negative victim consciousness, and they're just, quote, falling into their triggers, and they're not staying above it so that they can manifest the life of their dreams. Okay, that is some spiritual bypassing bullshit, and I'm calling it out right now. People truly are targeted and victimized. They don't simply have victim consciousness. Okay. Victim consciousness is often seen in like a privileged population where, and actually, to be honest, it could be seen on any socioeconomic or cultural spectrum of human beingness. Okay. You can have victim consciousness where you're constantly blaming other people for where you are in your life. You're constantly pointing the finger that you think life is just constantly happening to you, that you can never have or do or be the things that you want. That's victim consciousness, okay? But then there's the difference between people who are being targeted and victimized. And I'm speaking specifically about what's going on in North America and the United States and what's been going on with immigrant rights and a lot of brown and black-skinned and non-white folks who are being targeted, whether they're immigrants or not, they're being targeted, and it's being sold as that they don't belong in the country, right? And they're even being targeted as potential criminals. And the truth is whether or not they have any criminal activity, which, more than 90% of them don't, and that's straight up from the ICE numbers, that they don't have any criminal records or activity, they're being targeted as if they don't belong. And then the bystander culture, the people who are not speaking up against this, the people who are not doing anything about it, the people who are just kind of like, oh, well, tough shit for them. I have actually heard people say that there's a sense of victim consciousness, okay? And that is so gross because they are being targeted and victimized. And you want to see, you want an example of someone who is living their dreams, living their purpose, manifesting a new life and abundance for themselves. Look at an immigrant. Okay? Immigrants sacrificed something to better their lives, to follow a dream, and to manifest something in their life. That is true abundance, and that is true alignment and purpose and spirituality right there. You need an example of that? Look at an immigrant, okay? So this is why politics matter. It matters because this isn't okay. It matters, and even frankly, right now, I'm using my voice to say this is not okay. And what tends to happen in a power structure, power influences politics, right? Politics influences power. And when all of us do not have power, then we're all at a loss. We're all here to be of service at the world. Hey, this is Dr. Amy Lindsey, your host of Welcome to Your B-Side, your Midlife Metamorphosis YouTube channel and podcast. If you want to be more involved with my B-Side community, you can join on School. That's SKOOL. You can join my school community. Look me up, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Welcome to your B-Side and request to join. I want to press pause on that for 1 minute and then just talk a little bit about outrage addiction, negative news, scrolling, social media, and all of that. Because as a health practitioner, I can tell you that paying attention to negative news all the time and to scrolling all the time and to just repost and repost and repost and to just have those constant triggers of outrage is bad for your health. It's bad for your physical health and it's bad for your mental health. So did you know that when you are triggered in that sort of outrage, that something is really upsetting and it triggers outrage in you and rage in you, you are getting dopamine hits. So you are getting dopamine hits. And here's something that you should know about midlife. If you are in midlife, especially with those hormone changes, one of the pathways that changes is your dopamine pathway. Your dopamine pathway, you will actually have declining dopamine. And so in midlife, getting dopamine hits is like one of our favorite things to do in midlife, whether you know it or not. You're seeking dopamine hits, and you can seek it in so many different ways. But one of the ways is through outrage addiction. Outrage addiction is sort of the pathology, okay? And I say pathology because it's really going to impact your mental health, and it becomes something that you may have a difficult time getting out of, and you may need professional help for that, okay? Because what tends to happen is that you can then start posting and posting and posting like on social media, and then you're getting more and more and more dopamine hits from likes and comments and other people also being outraged with you. Does that make sense? That is not to say that social media is not a powerful tool for change, because it is. Often, social media can be used to broadcast information, to speak up, and to have sort of this online collective voice where people can then be in action and be in some sort of protest or resistance or taking some sort of action that aligns with them in politics, or to speak up against a wrongdoing or something that they really truly want to advocate for other human beings, or they want to advocate for the environment, or they want to advocate for something that's important to them. Okay, so there is a difference. The negative mental health consequences of only scrolling and looking at bad news is pretty serious in our culture. So what I would say is that, yes, politics absolutely matters. That simply avoiding it and saying you're trying to protect your inner peace is spiritual bypassing, because our inner peace should also include the liberation and justice for other people on the planet. Now, here's another level of nuance that I think is really important. Not everybody is safe to speak up. Does that make sense? So if you are someone who is being targeted, right, and being victimized, and you potentially are not safe, it may not be safe for you to be vulnerable and to speak up and to post and to share and to do all those kinds of things, right? And so that's where the power of privilege comes into play. If you are someone where it's safe for you, or at least safer for you to speak up, then that is one way that you can help. That is one way, is simply by speaking out against something. Another way is getting involved in ways to have power and influence in a positive way in the world, okay? But here's something that's very important as well, that not everybody is going to use their skills and talents and their own form of speaking up or protest or resistance in the same way. And this is so important to understand, that there's a lot of public shaming that I see online. And shame is a tool of the oppressor, right? So if we are fighting oppression and we truly are looking out for justice, and we truly are looking out for liberation for all, and abundance and health and wealth and inner peace for all, then using the tool of an oppressor through shame is just more of the same. And I really think that this is important. You are here on this planet to live your purpose, to live your assignment, to be in alignment with your truth and all of that, okay? To be of service of the world. So figure out what you personally can do to be of service when there is injustice going on. What can you personally do to be of service and to participate in politics? Does that make sense? But what I would say is it's not going to look the same to everyone. So for example, I'm an artist, I'm a musician as well as a doctor, and I know a lot of artists and musicians, and if you think about it over time, making art is one of the biggest, most powerful forms of protest or speaking out that there is, right? And some of those artists are not able to spend a whole lot of time speaking out publicly or on social media or getting involved in some of the posting and reposting, and they're not able to. That they do need to protect their creativity to then express their resistance, to speak up and to provide their art for us. Does that make sense? And that's just one example. But there are so many people who are silently working on the inner fabric of some of these policies, of some of the injustices, and fighting against a lot of wrongdoing and victimization of our friends and neighbors. Yeah? Okay. Midlife. What does this have to do with midlife? Okay. Use your menopause, andropause, midlife powers for good. Okay. You may have figured out that by midlife, you start to have this not giving a fuck attitude anymore. And it is a superpower to get to that place in midlife where you care less and less and less what other people think of you. You care less and less and less about consequences that are imagined, right? These imagined consequences. And we start really living into our own power, and we start living into our own true selves. But this is not just an individualistic game, okay? Use those powers for good. Use those powers for your morals and ethics. Use those for politics. Use those for policy change. Start advocating for other people and seeing other people as your own. You know, there was a study done on, what were they calling them? They were calling them wine moms or something. And which was funny because they were trying to be demeaning towards these like menopausal Gen X women who were out protesting. Okay. But it's so fucking awesome because I can personally relate to this. It's like you start treating your neighbors and the people you love and people who are victimized as like your own, right? That they're part of you, they're part of your family, they're part of your community, and you're like, hell no, not on my watch, right? And there's this bravery and there's this courage that comes with menopause and with midlife. And so I invite all of y'all who are in any kind of hormonal transition in your life that you use those powers for good and that you use them for advocacy for people who have less than you and for people who are victimized. Start giving a fuck. It is immature to say that politics don't matter because they absolutely do. And if you are someone who is interested in your health and your wealth and your abundance and you're on the spiritual journey in that regard, then politics absolutely fucking matter. And it is immature to say things like, I don't vote, I don't pay attention, I don't know what's going on, everybody's insane, and it's kind of this, you're not taking responsibility. You're not taking responsibility to know what's going on that impacts you and your family and your friends and your neighbors and the people of the world. And you're not taking responsibility to know what is going on to the extent that you can understand how to vote and how to participate. So this is immaturity in my mind. It's immaturity. And maybe it feels safer that way, or you just want to avoid it and not deal with it. Maybe you don't want to get in arguments with people. But I'm telling you, arguments propel us forward. Arguing is a pathway to growth. And there is a way you can argue, and there is a way you can stay calm, and there is a way that you can actually try to have mature conversations and move humanity forward and to move people forward. So while you're on your spiritual journey and while you're manifesting your own abundance for yourself. Remember, this is not just an individual game, that this has integrity for all of us, for justice and for peace and for prosperity for everyone. This has been another episode of Welcome to Your B-Side, your midlife metamorphosis with me, your host, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Have a great week. This has been another episode of Welcome to Your B-Side, your midlife metamorphosis with Dr. Amy Lindsey. Be sure to follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.